just like the rest of you. I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better. I am better!
The world of The Boys looks like ours, except superheroes are real, and they're not heroes. They're celebrities, weapons, products, and walking PR disasters. Supes are owned by a mega corporation called Vought International, which markets them through movies, merchandise, theme parks, and carefully curated public images. To the public, superheroes are symbols of hope and justice. Behind the scenes, they're violent, corrupt, narcissistic, and completely unaccountable. And at the top of this twisted food chain stands the Seven, the most powerful superhero team on Earth, led by the most dangerous man alive, Homelander. The story begins with Huey Campbell, a regular guy working at an electronics store whose life is shattered in seconds. While talking to his girlfriend Robin on the sidewalk, she's suddenly obliterated by A-Train, the world's fastest man who runs straight through her at super speed. Huey is left holding her severed hands, traumatized and confused, while A-Train barely apologizes before running off. Vought quickly swoops in to cover it up, offering Huey a settlement and forcing him to sign an NDA. This moment becomes the emotional core of the entire series, proof that superheroes don't protect ordinary people, they destroy them. Enter Billy Butcher, a foul-mouthed, ruthless vigilante who hates Supes more than anyone alive. Butcher recruits Huey into his secret war against superheroes, revealing that he's part of an underground group known as the Boys. Butcher's hatred is personal. His wife Becca was raped by Homelander years earlier and later died under mysterious circumstances, or so Butcher believes. Fueled by rage and revenge, Butcher wants to expose Supes for what they really are and kill as many as possible along the way. Meanwhile, we're introduced to Annie January, a genuine, kind-hearted young woman who becomes the newest member of the Seven under the superhero name Starlight. She believes she's finally achieved her childhood dream of saving the world. That dream shatters almost immediately when she's sexually assaulted by the Deep, one of the Seven. When she reports it, Vought pressures her to stay quiet to protect the brand. This moment establishes the central theme of the show. Power protects itself, not the innocent. Homelander, the leader of the Seven, is introduced as the perfect American hero, smiling, patriotic, godlike, but it quickly becomes clear he's deeply unstable. Raised in a lab without parents, he has no empathy, no moral compass, and an overwhelming need for love and control. He pretends to be a savior, but in reality, he's a tyrant barely holding back his worst impulses. The boys discover a massive secret. Superheroes aren't born, they're made. Vought has been injecting babies with a substance called Compound V, giving them superpowers and then lying to the public for decades. This revelation could destroy the entire superhero industry, but exposing it won't be easy because Vought controls politicians, media, and the justice system. As Huey struggles with guilt and fear, he's forced to grow up fast. He becomes more involved in the boys' dangerous operations, planting bugs, gathering intel, and confronting Supes far stronger than him. His relationship with Starlight becomes complicated when she discovers his connection to Butcher, but she ultimately chooses to help expose Vought from the inside. Things escalate when the boys attempt to kill Translucent, an invisible member of the Seven. After discovering his skin is impenetrable from the outside, they kill him from within by planting an explosive inside his body. This moment marks the point of no return. The boys are no longer just exposing Supes, they're killing them. Homelander begins to suspect there's a conspiracy against him, especially after Translucent's death. He grows increasingly paranoid and violent, punishing those around him and asserting dominance through fear. Meanwhile, Vought executive Madeline Stillwell acts as his handler, manipulating him emotionally while secretly fearing him. Their disturbing, almost maternal relationship highlights just how broken Homelander truly is. Season 1 builds toward chaos as Butcher finally confronts Homelander, detonating a bomb in a desperate attempt to kill him. But Homelander survives and reveals the biggest twist of all. Becca is alive. She was forced to carry Homelander's child, and the baby survived, possessing powers even greater than his father's. Homelander leaves Butcher alive, not out of mercy, but cruelty, wanting him to suffer knowing the truth. Season 2 begins with the world reeling from the exposure of Compound V. Vought spins the narrative, claiming they never intended to create superheroes and blaming rogue scientists. Meanwhile, Homelander becomes even more unhinged as he competes for control of his son Ryan, who's being raised in secret by Becca. A new Soupy named Stormfront joins the Seven, presenting herself as a bold, modern feminist hero. But behind the image lies something far darker. Stormfront is actually a Nazi from World War II, one of the first recipients of Compound V, and she believes supes are a superior race meant to rule over humans. She forms a terrifying ideological bond with Homelander, encouraging his worst instincts and pushing him toward authoritarianism. As the boys regroup, they uncover Stormfront's true identity and work with Starlight, Kimiko, and Queen Maeve to stop her. Kimiko's backstory is explored, revealing a childhood shaped by violence and experimentation and her struggle to reclaim her humanity despite her powers. The season culminates in a brutal showdown where Ryan, trying to protect his mother, unleashes a blast of heat vision that severely injures Stormfront but accidentally kills Becca. This moment breaks Butcher emotionally, forcing him to confront his obsession with revenge and his inability to protect the people he loves. Stormfront is defeated and later dies off-screen, while Homelander is left isolated, grieving, and furious. Ryan is taken in by Butcher, who promises Becca he'll protect the boy, even though he despises everything Homelander represents. Season 3 opens with the world more divided than ever. Homelander has become a political symbol, embraced by extremists and worshipped by fans who excuse his behavior no matter how horrific. Vought's grip on society tightens, while the boys work under government supervision to eliminate rogue supes. Desperate to stop Homelander, Butcher turns to a dangerous new weapon, Temp Phi, a temporary version of Compound Phi that gives normal humans superpowers for 24 hours, but slowly kills them. Huey and Butcher both use it, crossing moral lines they once swore never to cross. The season introduces Soldier Boy, America's original superhero and Homelander's biological father. Soldier Boy is a brutal, emotionally abusive relic of toxic masculinity, frozen for decades and unleashed into the modern world. His presence exposes a cycle of generational trauma, showing how Homelander became who he is. As alliances shift, characters confront who they're becoming. Huey realizes power is corrupting him, while Starlight grows increasingly disillusioned with institutions and media. Maeve sacrifices her public image to expose Homelander's crimes, risking her life in the process. The season builds toward an explosive finale where Soldier Boy nearly kills Homelander, but the plan falls apart when Ryan chooses his father. Butcher, unable to harm the child, stops the attack. Soldier Boy is subdued, Homelander survives, and the cycle of violence continues. The final moments are chilling. Homelander murders a man in public, and instead of outrage, the crowd cheers. The world has crossed a line. Power no longer needs to hide. As the story pushes beyond explosive confrontations and shocking reveals, The Boys increasingly becomes a psychological study of power, how it corrupts, isolates, and ultimately consumes those who wield it. Homelander, now openly embraced by a radicalized portion of the public, no longer feel the need to pretend. The carefully crafted image Vought once protected is cracking, and instead of resisting it, Homelander leans in. He realizes something terrifyingly simple. He doesn't need to be loved by everyone. He only needs to be feared by some and worshipped by enough. This realization transforms him from a corporate mascot into a genuine authoritarian threat. Homelander's relationship with Ryan becomes the emotional and ideological battleground of the series. Ryan represents the future, not just of supes, but of society itself. Unlike Homelander, Ryan was raised with some level of love, empathy, and choice. But Homelander is determined to mold him into a version of himself, believing that strength comes from domination and emotional detachment. Every interaction between them is a quiet war between two worldviews, one built on control, the other still clinging to innocence. The tragedy is that Ryan is powerful enough to reshape the world, yet young enough to be shaped by whoever reaches him first. Butcher's internal conflict deepens as he becomes the very thing he despises. His use of Temp 5 isn't just a tactical decision, it's a moral collapse. For years, Butcher justified his actions by claiming the moral high ground, insisting that Supies were monsters and humans were victims. But once he experiences power firsthand, he begins to understand how seductive it is. The rush, the invincibility, the feeling that rules no longer apply, and that realization terrifies him because it means Homelander isn't a a freak accident, he's a warning of what happens when power goes unchecked, no matter who holds it. Huey's journey, in contrast, is about reclaiming agency without losing compassion. His brief taste of power reveals something crucial. He doesn't actually want to dominate anyone. He wants to protect the people he loves. When Huey steps away from Tempe V, it marks one of the most important moral decisions in the series. He chooses vulnerability over control. In a world obsessed with strength, Huey becomes proof that humanity still matters. His growth isn't about becoming harder, it's about becoming braver. Starlight's arc evolves from disillusionment to leadership. She stops believing reform can happen quietly from within the system. Instead, she understands that visibility is power and that silence is complicity. By walking away from Vought and embracing her role as a public dissenter, she becomes something far more dangerous to the establishment than any weapon. A symbol, not a flawless one, but a real one. Someone who admits mistakes, speaks openly, and refuses to be packaged. In a universe dominated by manufactured narratives, authenticity becomes revolutionary. Meanwhile, characters like Queen Maeve illustrate the cost of survival within corrupt systems. Maeve has spent years compromising, telling herself that small acts of resistance were enough to justify staying alive. But eventually, even survival becomes a prison. Her willingness to sacrifice everything to stop Homelander isn't just heroic, it's an act of self-forgiveness. For the first time, she chooses who she wants to be, not who the system forced her to become. Kimiko and Frenchie continue to embody the struggle of trauma and redemption. Both are haunted by violent pasts shaped by forces far beyond their control. Kimiko's powers, once a source of shame and pain, become something she reclaims, not as a weapon, but as a part of herself. Frenchie, constantly seeking absolution, learns that forgiveness isn't earned through suffering alone. It's earned by choosing to live differently. Their bond isn't perfect or clean, but it's honest, and in the boys, honesty is rare. Vought itself begins to unravel under the weight of its own lies. The corporation was built on the illusion of control, of shaping heroes, narratives, and public perception. But as information spreads faster and loyalty fractures, even Vought struggles to contain the chaos it created. Executives become disposable. Marketing strategies turn desperate. The machine keeps moving, but no one is truly in control anymore. And that's the most dangerous phase of any system, when it's still powerful, but panicking. One of the most unsettling truths the series reveals is that Homelander doesn't need Vought anymore. He's outgrown the corporation that made him. What once restrained him, public image, contracts, handlers, no longer matters. He has direct influence over people now. Fans who cheer his cruelty, commentators who justify his violence, supporters who reinterpret his crimes as strength. The line between superhero and dictator blurs completely. Homelander doesn't rule because he's the strongest. He rules because people choose him, and that choice implicates everyone. This is where The Boys becomes less about supes and more about society. The show holds up an uncomfortable mirror. Power doesn't rise in a vacuum. It's elevated by fear, apathy, and the desire for simple answers. Homelander isn't just a monster. He's a product of a culture that rewards dominance, excuses abuse, and confuses spectacle with truth. The crowd cheering after his public murder isn't shocking because it's unrealistic. It's shocking because it feels plausible. As the story moves forward, the stakes are no longer about stopping one man. They're about stopping an idea, the belief that strength justifies cruelty, that power equals righteousness, that accountability is optional for those at the top. These ideas infect institutions, media, and even personal relationships, and once they take root, they're harder to destroy than any supervillain. But The Boys isn't entirely nihilistic. Beneath the violence and satire, there's a stubborn thread of hope. It lives in people who refuse to look away, who speaks up when silence is safer, who chooses empathy even when revenge feels easier. The show suggests that real heroism isn't about lasers or invincibility. It's about restraint, about choosing not to become the thing you hate, even when the world rewards it. The tragedy is that there are no clean victories. Every choice leaves scars. Every stand comes with consequences. But that's the point. The Boys reject the fantasy that good and evil are simple. Instead, it asks a harder question. In a broken world, how do you stay human? As long as Homelander exists, the threat is constant. As long as Ryan is watching, the future is uncertain. And as long as people are willing to trade morality for comfort, the cycle continues. The fight isn't just against supes, it's against surrender, against the temptation to let power decide what's right. And that's why The Boys resonate so deeply. Beneath the blood, the satire, and the shock value, it tells a story we recognize. A world where truth is manipulated, where authority goes unchecked, where the loudest voices drown out the most honest ones, and where the hardest thing isn't fighting monsters, it's refusing to become one. And that's the entire story of The Boys. A world where heroes are the villains, truth is dangerous, and saving humanity might mean destroying the gods it created.